I've been trying to convert my wardrobe to just Kramer fits.
Now, are you trying to sort of do everything that is it Michael Richardson who played Kramer?
I see
Are
where
you
you're
are
going
you
with
are,
I
are you
see
trying
where
are
you're
you
going with
trying to
this
do
immediately, and I don't like it. I don't like what you're doing. You're
so are
trying
you
to lead
trying
me.
to like
No, I
do
know what you're
everything
doing.
that he does?
No, I'm not. I know exactly what you're getting at,
One,
and
two,
no is
three,
the
four.
answer.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French.
Oui, oui.
If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar wieners, Oscar wieners, Oscar wieners. These boys are the Oscar wieners.
Yum, yum.
Oscar wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Mhm.
the only show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night stages a play. Uh, Let me take that again.
Yeah.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners, the only show on the internet codenamed Romeo and Ethel, the pirate's daughter.
This is it. This is the show.
Yeah, this is the
Wow.
show.
Cool.
I am Bill
Just Bill.
Lynn Spears.
Okay. And you all know me. I'm famously Danny DeCito. It's just really my
good.
God-given name.
No, I'm Michael. He's Ander, and this is a
Nice.
show where every week we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out if it is Best Picture worthy.
Neat.
And this week we're talking about the 1999 Best Picture winner, Shakespeare in Love, directed by bum 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 bum
There he is.
John Madden.
God, he was
Put
so
a big
multi-talented.
picture of him up on the
Yeah.
screen right now.
Yeah. Done. Right
Um,
here.
starring. Sorry, shut up for a second. Starring
I wasn't talking.
Joseph Fiennes. I think it's Ray Fiennes' brother.
I did a quick search, and it indeed is his kin.
They do look alike. Yeah. So, Joseph Fiennes as Will Shakespeare. Just a
Really?
normal guy trying to make his silly little plays in 16th century England. Young Shakespeare is forced to stage his latest comedy, Romeo and Ethel, the Pirate's Daughter, before it's even written. When a lovely noblewoman auditions for a role, they fall into forbidden love, and his play finds a new life and title. As their relationship progresses, Shakespeare's comedy suit transforms into a tragedy. So, Joseph Fiennes plays Will Shakespeare. Gwyneth Paltrow plays Viola de Lesseps. You got Jeffrey Rush in there as like the theater, the owner of the Rose Theater. Philip Henslow's his character's name. You got Tom Wilkinson as sort of a local street fucking what's he?
I don't
He's
even know
he,
who you're talking about, dude.
he's the guy that in the opening of the movie he's like, give me the money you owe me.
Oh, that guy. He's just a
A
just
shake
picture he's a thespian shakedown guy.
Yeah.
He's like the wire the money. Except they didn't know how to do that, so it was just give me the tuppence or whatever.
right, the ducats.
Yeah, fork over the penance.
And you got Judi Dench in there as Queen Elizabeth, just like an absolute nasty little lady. Not Judi Dench,
That's
like Queen
unfair.
Elizabeth's character in this movie. And you got Colin Firth as the biggest cuck in the history of cucks, and you got Ben Affleck as
He's up
none
there.
other than Ned Allen.
God, when I was watching through this, at the moment that Ben Affleck showed up, I was
It's
like,
crazy.
this feels right. Not in a good way necessarily, just in the sense that like stars and planets are aligning. Like this is nature. This has to be that Ben is here.
Well,
It just felt proper.
well, so this movie was produced by Harvey Weinstein, a really good guy.
Stand-up guy.
Um,
God, as soon as the Miramax thing shows up, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go.
Yeah. And Ben Affleck was like one of Harvey's like guys. Like he was like, what if we put him in every movie?
Oh, okay.
Like every movie would benefit from Ben Affleck was kind of
Benef-
Harvey Weinstein's mantra in like the kind of mid late 90s and early 2000s.
One might say he was something of a benefactor. Thank you. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, actually, you might say he's something of a benefactor.
That was it's my bit. That was my gag.
Sorry, I think my audio's cutting out. So this movie was initially going to be shot in like 1991.
And then what? They fell asleep?
Well, so
Like, what happened? It's an 8-year gap.
it was originally going to be directed by Edward Zwick. Edward Zwick was like, this script kind of sucks, so he brought in Tom Stoppard, who's like a very famous playwright. Tom Stoppard has this famous play called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is like Hamlet from the point of view of just them.
God, who cares? Right? Like, why
Well,
make
actually,
that?
it's very famous, so why don't you
I don't care.
show a little reverence?
Fine. But then he must have played Mad in '08 or something, because then he brought in the big guns. Is that correct?
No, so I think Julia Roberts was initially in that original attempted production. Julia Roberts was initially going to play the Gwyneth Paltrow role, and Edward Zwick really wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to play the William Shakespeare role. Honestly, kind of a good casting choice, but you know what Daniel Day-Lewis said? Fuck
said,
no.
Yeah, I would have too if I were him.
And then I think like they just couldn't get like casting, and then production just sort of halted, and eventually it was like, actually, never mind, we're not making this movie. And then years later, I guess John Madden was like, he put the pigskin down. He was like, what if I made a film?
He said, what if I went long on this movie business? What
What if I went yad on that one?
Is he from Boston?
Yeah, I hope Ben Affleck is. I don't know if you know that because I don't know if you've seen those Dunkin's commercials, but he's from Boston.
Ben Affleck is?
Yeah.
Oh, you learn something new every day.
Ander, what is your relationship to William Shakespeare, to sonnet writing, to kissing, to love, to Harvey Weinstein's deeds as a guy?
We're going to cover all that. I can cover all that in about 60 seconds. Well, kissing, you know my stance on. We had Andrew's Makeout Corner, which won't be repeated. It was not popular.
We actually got to cease and desist.
We did. It was earned, it was warranted, and we will. Shakespeare in general, I really do not like the man's work. I'll be quite honest.
Hate that guy.
I mean, I don't know if I hate the man. I don't know what kind of man he was. I don't know if he was real. There's speculation that he was just a freaking pen name or whatever. I mean, clearly he was stealing ideas in this movie. He stole all of Christopher Marlowe's ideas. Christopher Marlowe was just sitting there like at the bar with Willie Shakes, and he's like, what should I do for this play? And Marlowe just wrote Romeo and Juliet for him.
I mean, Marlowe doesn't give him the idea for Romeo and Juliet. He just sort of simplifies it and is like, he's like, here's like a plot point.
Yeah, but he like freestyled
it is like a major
plot
plot point.
Like it seems incredibly clear that he is portrayed as a better writer than Shakespeare. And was he? Was that a real guy? Like, what's his deal?
Marlowe's a real guy. Is this the face that launched 1,000 ships? Whatever, like that whole thing. I forget what play it's from, but I haven't read any of his plays because I don't care, because he's not Billy Shakespeare.
Damn.
That's true that they were like kind of competitors like of the time. Like they were sort of the most popular playwrights of the era, and it's like they would sort of have this like combative relationship.
It's like The Rock and Diesel.
I was gonna say it's like the Beatles and the Beach Boys, but sure.
No, it's not like that at all. I don't know what you're talking about. That's just my take. Not a big Shakes guy.
I feel exactly the opposite. In high school, I kind of liked him. I remember reading Romeo and Juliet and being like, this kind of fucks.
You said
And
that?
yeah, I said that in class, and but in college is where I took like did I take
Stats.
3 Shakespeare classes? I might have taken 3 Shakespeare classes.
Kill me.
And that is where I fell in love with that accordion necked weirdo.
What
Um,
is that style? What is that whole deal?
bad,
Why
bad
is it the
style.
only way I see him?
I think that it's just like that most famous like
Right.
painting of him or whatever.
I mean, I guess except in this movie where he drives a
Absolutely.
Vespa. Like, what is his deal? He has a leather jacket, which is fine, except all the other characters are period appropriate. They have the weird accordion neck thing. Like, Cuck Firth, he's got it. Like, other characters wear it legitimately and wear period appropriate attire, except for William Shakespeare, who's just like an e-boy. Like, I don't know what his deal is.
Yeah, I guess he does have sort of e-boy energy. I just think there's a lot of ways that this movie sort of I think is trying to modernize the period or at least like make it not seem like it was 600 years ago. I mean, they talk in like old-ish English, but it's like hip and modern and fast. Like they talk like characters in a romantic comedy
Well, they
who are
talk.
charming. I don't
I
know.
mean, this is a romantic comedy, right? Like, let's be
Yeah.
honest. It's a
Yeah.
period romantic comedy. I don't know if that's an Oscar for
Did
that.
you like this movie?
Yeah, I did actually. It
Okay.
was kind of campy. I don't think it was campy in a good way. Like, camp is so hard to. It's hard to discern whether or not it's gonna help or detract from a film, but I don't know. Just in this case, it didn't. I think it was not helping.
It's sort of calling attention to the tropes that Shakespeare like if he didn't invent them, he perfected them. And it's
Mhm.
like, look at these tropes that are still being used like in rom-coms. Like all this shit like mistaken identity, like misunderstanding,
Okay,
uh
so it kind of.
characters like not getting like all that stuff is just like par for the course when it comes to a rom-com. And he kind of set that template.
All right, so it's kind of like commenting on itself.
Yeah. It's meta.
Yeah, it is meta, and I like meta. I just think it was maybe I didn't really know what it was trying to do.
In what way?
Am I trying to? In what way are you trying to engage me? Is this a heartfelt story? Is this primarily a love story? Is this a porno that's like just disguises other stuff, which I maybe thought that it was at one point? Ultimately, it's good and fun, and I think it was fine.
Put that on the fucking DVD, I swear to God. Does have a mix of tones where it's like sort of lighthearted 1 second, and then sort of like these characters are like kind of monologuing to each other, and you're sort of it's asking the
Yeah,
audience to be like really devastated and invested by the drama of like Viola has to marry Cuck Firth, as you called him,
right.
and Shakespeare like is just sort of a lowly like playwright and like poet,
What
and they can't be together.
can I ask you a historical question?
Go for it. I
What's
definitely know the answer.
Okay, cool. What's Shakespeare's whole deal? Like, is he famous in his time?
Yes.
Okay, but he's still is like was this like I didn't care that this movie wasn't historically accurate. Like that didn't bother me at all. I don't think it was trying to be. It's not a documentary. Go watch a documentary then.
But watch Ken Burns' Shakespeare.
Does that exist? I
No.
wouldn't be surprised. This seems like a rundown operation a little bit that maybe gains some notoriety. But I guess there's just no like things don't go viral back then, except for the plague, which did go viral. So I guess people
Yeah.
just didn't really know about shit going on.
Well, what's interesting about this movie, I don't know how historically accurate this is, and I don't know the answer or not, but it seems like people, maybe it is a little bit heightened, but it's like people could just like go see the Queen kind of, and it was like normal. It was like, oh yeah, that guy off the street could just be like, hey, can I pop in and say hi to the Queen?
That was kind of I did clock that too, where I was just like, the guards are just kind of AFK. The Queen is just out at a play. I guess that's what you just did. Like no one, like you were surrounded by people. No one, I guess, was gonna come up and stab you, but maybe someone would. I don't know why they didn't expect
Right.
that to happen. But the Queen was just out in the open, out in public, walking around. interacting with folks.
It's interesting.
That's
I mean,
fine.
yeah, Shakespeare was famous though. People would have known him. He did have a wife named Anne Hathaway, and that wife did star in 2014's Interstellar, directed by
Wow.
Christopher Nolan. Uh,
Amazing.
the movie kind of brushes past it. I forget the sort of circumstances of their
What do you
marriage. Like
mean?
he just sort of like wasn't with her, but they weren't divorced. I mean, eventually I think he did.
You got to take like 2 steps back from me. What are you talking about? Anne Hathaway's a person in real life.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, no, William Shakespeare was married to a woman named Anne Hathaway.
That's true?
That's true.
Oh, okay. But
They
not
say it
this is
briefly.
gonna be
They touch on it briefly.
this might be a silly question. But not like the Anne Hathaway, right? That
Yeah,
would be
the Anne Hathaway.
the one that was in Interstellar, that was in The Dark Knight Rises,
That was in
the
fucking
Swan
Princess
movie.
Diaries.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anne Hathaway is sort of like our eternal hero. She sort of pops up across history. Um,
I love that for her.
yeah, I think Shakespeare eventually returned to Anne Hathaway. I mean, he eventually just stops writing plays. He just like he kind of retires.
This is in real life.
In real life, yeah.
Okay.
He like at least like he stopped writing stuff that was performed publicly. I don't know if he stopped writing, but I think it's kind of a G move to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna write some of the most foundational texts in history, and then just like I don't know, like spend the next 10 years just kind of chilling out.
I do respect that.
Yeah.
I do respect that hardcore. What do you think about the portrayal of Shakespeare in this movie?
It's so silly, but I love a movie about a writer who's like, oh God, I can't write. I have to. I need inspiration. Like I love that once he starts his fucking romance with Viola, he like is like, oh, now Romeo and Juliet's just like getting written. I wrote Act 2 today.
Yeah. Or
Of like
Romeo
one of the most
and the
famous plays ever.
Romeo and the Pirate Prince or whatever.
Yeah.
What's the original title?
Romeo and Ethel, the pirate's daughter.
Right. They make that joke like too many times.
I thought it was funny every time because I like the idea of like, Shakespeare. I feel like, people think about Shakespeare now as like, oh God, he's that really stuffy, boring guy we have to read in high school. But it's like his plays were made to be entertaining. Like this was like he was the MCU in fucking the 16th century.
It's a
like,
wild take.
His shit was really entertaining for people. People went to laugh, they went to cry. And I like the idea of the Rose owner, Jeffrey Rush's character. I like the idea of him being like, hey,
Rose
can
is
you
the
write me
theater?
another play? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Shakespeare, like when the movie starts, he's like, yeah, Shakespeare, can you write me a play about like a pirate, a funny dog, and like a romance? And it's like kind of funny. And Shakespeare's like, sure. But then like he just writes this like really different thing that's like transcendent. I don't know. I just think that idea is funny.
I will say there were plenty of moments that stood out to me that I think I will remember, that will stick with me.
Such as
there is the scene where where Shakespeare's sword fighting with Cuckfirth, and or Lord Wessex, I guess is his character's name. And they're sword fighting, and then Shakespeare like takes a step back and falls off the stage hilariously. He just like bashes his chin. Do you remember that?
I think I remember him falling off the stage. I don't think I remember paying attention to how he fell.
Oh, I rewound it like 8 times. It's so good. Definitely go back and rewatch that.
So you're like, the best part of this movie is when it turns into America's Funniest Home Videos for a second.
No, if I'm being totally honest, the best part of this movie, and I think the one aspect that does separate it from a rom-com, is the end, where they actually put on the play of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, the last 30 minutes of this movie is the best part for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that scene is incredible. I think that was watching that scene, I was like, oh, this is how Shakespeare is supposed to be performed. Not by a bunch of mid-pubescent 9th graders. Like, maybe that's why I have such an aversion to it. Maybe it just wasn't performed in the right way. Like, because that's the only version I've heard. The only rendition is from people in my ninth grade English class reading it to each other.
Yeah, I also feel like I don't think I've ever seen a Shakespeare production that like you said wasn't performed by like children. Um but the little clips I remember seeing like in school or whatever, it's like even theater people take it so seriously. And what I love about the performance in this movie, obviously you're only seeing like little fragments of the actual play, but like I love talented adults who are a little bit goofy and not like the best at their craft performing Shakespeare. Because like it sort of like brings it down from like, oh, this is like the height of literary accomplishment to like, oh, this is entertainment.
I thought they were actually really good. I think that scene is actually well acted. Even the guy with the stutter, who the whole movie is like, oh no, this guy's gonna be a disaster. He's like, he can't speak any of the lines, and then he's just like,
Two families, both alike
yeah.
in dignity.
And he just crushes the narration. He was so good. That was maybe my favorite part.
It is really good.
But no, I think the actors really perform it well. It's the only time I've ever really seen it done professionally. Like the moment when Juliet is resuscitated. Spoiler alerts for, I guess, Romeo and Juliet. But the moment when she becomes resuscitated from taking the fake poison, and the whole audience gasps, I felt, I got like such a chill. I was like, oh my god, like this is intense. This is how Shakespeare meant to be shooken.
Yeah, and I actually agree. I think that is true. I think the performance like I guess what I meant was like Gwyneth and like Viola and Billy are very good. I think everybody around them is like a little bit goofier. Like they're not like acting isn't like their thing. They're just sort of like there because like they're like, I want to be in a play.
Yes, that is true. Yes.
But they are good though. But I think what I like about them not being like people who really want to act, like where like they're like, I'm dedicated to being a thespian, is like that it like adds spontaneity to their performances. And I feel like that's sometimes lacking from like actual productions of Shakespeare where it's like everyone's like, I'm performing Shakespeare, where it's like I'm just performing this play.
Well, they do want to act. They're just not handsome. So you think they're not actors. Like that's, I guess, the whole.
That's true. It is a gaggle of uggos.
But they're a troupe of actors. Like they're all hanging out at the actor bar or whatever, and
that is true.
And then there's the moment
You're
where
right.
What is the moment where Ben Affleck, who's playing
Mercutio.
Yeah, playing Ned, playing Mercutio, which I guess is confusing. But Ben rolls up with like his squad of acting boys, and he's like, I heard there's a play, where can we act? And then all the boys are getting rowdy in the play house.
Yeah.
What is that? What is his whole posse?
Jeffrey Rush alludes to them a few times. He's like before they show up, he's like Ned and whatever are like away at sea or some shit like that. I forget what it was. But then it's like, yeah, they came back and it's like, oh, now they can be in the play. And I guess like Ned and the boys are like the best actors like in the neighborhood.
It has so much energy of like the kid around the block who's like mom said he couldn't come out, but he ends up coming out later and you guys are playing Manhunt. That's the exact vibe.
Totally.
It's like, oh shit, Ned's here. I thought he got a C- on his test and couldn't hang out with us.
Totally. We'll get to Ben Affleck in a second. Like, I just want to touch on like the play ass shit of this movie.
The part where they perform the play.
Kind of. Even when they're rehearsing it, like when they're rehearsing scenes, and it's just like the cast like watching each other perform it.
Yeah.
There's so many shots, and I found it kind of moving. Of just like people, like especially Tom Wilkinson's character. He's the guy who's like the shakedown guy. Ferryman. I think is his character's name. Where he's watching
Fennyman
them perform Shakespeare. I want to say it's the scene when I forget who dies in Shakespeare when basically Romeo kills
Tybalt.
Juliet's brother, Tybalt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and like they're all watching it and they're like so moved by it. They're like, and they're so like in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's like so sweet because it's like, especially Ferryman, he's like, he starts the movie where he's gonna like burn Jeffrey Rush's goddamn feet off or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
he's pissed.
but then he's like, he gets really into the idea of staging a play, and he's like, this is, and also he just the material. He's like, this material is so good.
Yeah, he has nice development because you think he's just a financier who's only in it for the money. He doesn't really care about the artistry of the play. But it turns out he's a huge fan of stage acting, and he's like, "Can I be in it?" And he gets to be
Right.
the apothecary, which is nice for him.
I also love a movie where a character is one way around one like a specific character, and then like once this is a good transition actually, and then once Ben Affleck fucking crashes through the door, he basically like dresses Wilkinson down. He's like Wilkinson starts to say something, and Ned's like, "Who are you? Like, get out of here.
Scram.
We're acting. We're actors." And
Who's
like he's
Wilkinson?
like, "Oh yes, of course, sir." Ferryman, Tom Wilkinson's character.
Oh.
Uh,
Fenneman, I believe his name was.
is it Fenneman?
Mr. Fenneman.
Oh, it is Fennyman. Oopsies. Ned is swayed. He's like, this play is really good,
Yeah.
but also like he realizes that the play isn't actually about Mercutio, and he's
Yeah.
like a little bit pissed. But then like as it goes on, he's like, this play is actually really good. And then he tells Will, he's like, yeah, you fucking suck, but like obviously this play shouldn't be called Mercutio. It's about Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
and it's good. So eat my ass.
Shout out to Benny Affleck.
And he does.
And he does. That was crazy when that happened.
I wrote down, speaking of sex, I think it's really
Here we go.
funny that Shakespeare recites his own play and sonnets while he's banging
Yes. Yes. My first thought
That's
was
a power move.
He's probably the only person who can do that and get away with it. Like anyone else trying to recite Shakespeare is like, get out of here. But he wrote it. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but
Yeah.
I guess the idea is that he's coming up with this stuff like as he's, I don't know, in the act.
Yeah,
Is that
it's like
what's
it's like
going on? Like he's like, oh, what soft, what light through yonder window break. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think he writes it pre-sex and then he's like reciting it to her during sex.
phrased that way, it sounds so uncool.
It's like,
do you
oh, I'm
wanna
gonna
hear my
say this to her while we're
poetry?
humping.
I wrote you a
um,
sonnet, babe.
I think the romance is really nice in this movie, and I find it
Yeah.
actually kind of devastating when Viola has to like. It's like there's no way around her marrying Cuckfirth. It's like she's gonna marry Cuckfirth,
Yeah.
and it's like they can't be together. And like them performing Romeo and Juliet is like an external representation of their interpersonal relationship, and it's like
Yeah.
it's very beautifully done, and like kind of emotionally it all like comes together really well. um
I was
I don't know,
wondering,
it's really good. This movie's really like well constructed.
I agree with that. I was wondering how it was going to, because clearly it was supposed to be representative of the actual play itself. So I was wondering, so I knew it was going to have a, well, actually I wasn't sure. I thought maybe they were going to put a spin on it and make it more of a positive ending. I thought maybe Cuckfirth was going to be like, because he got so cucked that I thought maybe he'd be like embarrassed and decide to just move on.
I've seen this. I guess I didn't talk about it. I've seen this movie like twice before. But I haven't seen it in years, and I don't remember what happens at the end. So I was like, I thought the same thing. I was like, I think Cuckfirth might just be like, this is too embarrassing. If I stayed with this woman, I need to just like cut my losses and go back to the Americas.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
Also, what is his deal? So he's like, I guess a rich guy, but he's trying to marry into, is
I don't think he is a rich guy. I don't think he's like poor, but I think he needs money to like is he trying to start a tobacco fucking like farm? Is that what he's doing in,
there's
in
a
America?
quick little, there's a little throwaway line where he's like, I'm going to start a tobacco farm in Virginia, and I think maybe it will be profitable, which is
Right.
It's funny because like it's gonna be insanely profitable. Like he's gonna be rich, except he dies. But I don't really know. Does he die? What is the ending? I don't really get it. Is that like Shakespeare's dream? Is that like his? Is he just daydreaming? Did that actually happen?
Oh no, I think that's
Or
fake.
there's a
So
shipwreck?
that's just like you said with Marlowe giving Shakespeare the idea for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Fucking Viola's like, what if you wrote a play kind of about like imagining what happens to me? Because like then I guess after Romeo and Juliet, I don't know if this is entirely accurate. I guess Twelfth Night, at least in this movie, comes after Romeo and Juliet, and he's writing Twelfth Night as like
Okay.
a way to process the grief from the relation, like the ending of his relationship with
Got
Viola.
it. I have a question about the boy.
The boy who like he loves Titus Andronicus because there's a lot of murder in it.
Yeah, the rat boy who touches all
Yeah.
the rat. He's like
He
kissing
feeds the
rats.
rats to cats because he's a
It's-
maniac, fucking psycho
It's
ass.
so insane. That boy is covered in plague, like without a doubt. He's probably
Also,
the epicenter of the plague.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Go
nobody
ahead.
wears a mask in this movie, and
Oh.
that is really disgusting.
It's like, what are we doing? Do we not care? There is that one doctor guy who's warning everybody about the plague, and everyone's entering this theater, and he's like, "No, stop! The plague is
Well,
here."
wasn't that like a priest?
I don't know. He was some guy who was warning about the plague, and he seemed the only one concerned.
It is funny that this movie's like kind of anti-vax in that way.
Yeah, I did think that was was pretty funny in a
It's like
pre-COVID
ignore the plague. Let's go fucking see a show.
world. Yeah.
Who cares?
Like it's funny because everybody at that show got the plague like the next week for sure.
Do you remember? I don't know if maybe you didn't see this. I remember when lockdown first started, people
Mhm.
were tweeting like, you know, during the plague, fucking Shakespeare's plague of 16 whatever. Like during this plague, Shakespeare wrote King Lear. So like, now you have this time. You should do something. And it's like literally
That's
fuck
so
off.
annoying. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's such a pain in the ass. Like, just let me play Animal Crossing. Jesus
Yeah, it's like
Christ.
if you're not writing King Lear, you're wasting your fucking time.
Right, King. And you know what? I don't give a damn about King Lear anyway. So, checkmate
Actually,
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But I do believe you dodged my question about the boy.
Who is the boy? Is that your question? What
It
is
seemed
he?
like it was leading that he's. It seems like it was trying to do a nod that like he becomes a playwright or something because they were like, oh, because he's like, one day when I write plays, it's gonna be all violence and it's gonna be blah 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 and beheading, and it kind of led me to believe that maybe he does become a playwright. His name is fucking
Chimney Sweep Billy?
I think his name was Oliver Twist or something. John Webster is his name.
Oh, if
Is
he
that
has
a
a name,
guy?
that probably has to be a real guy, right?
It seemed like it would be. I didn't look into it at all, but he was like, well, my name isn't John Webster, and like looked dead at the camera. And I was like, this
Right.
has to be a guy, right? This has to be a real guy.
This is a real guy, English dramatist.
Oh, okay. There you go.
He was the English Jacobean dramatist, best known for his tragedies The White Devil and The Duchess of Malfi, which are
Oh, there
often
you
seen
go.
as masterpieces of the early 17th century English stage.
There you go.
His
That's
life
what-
and career overlap with Shakespeare's.
I mean, he does rat them out, no pun intended. He squeals on the whole affair because he sees that Gwyneth Paltrow's character Viola is not in fact a man.
He's like, I saw her bubbies.
Yeah, I saw her bubbies is the line, which will be remembered in cinema history as
Put
one
that-
of the iconic lines.
Put that on my grave. I saw her bubbies.
R.I.P. Michael
Jack
O'Brien.
Webster.
He
What's his
saw
fucking name?
her
John
bubbies.
Webster?
John Webster.
John Webster.
I saw her bubbies. I did. Well,
It
I
all
guess
worked
not.
out in the end. Shakespeare gets to have his nasty, like, black fingernails from all the ink that he's using.
A lot of close-ups of that.
Yeah, kind of cool though. Like, I want my fingertips to be stained with ink.
I mean, that happened to me the other night. I bought this new pen and the way that I write, it just rubs on my pinky. So like it just covers my whole hands in ink.
You should tell people you're writing a sonnet if they ask.
I tell people that every time I introduce myself to a new person. I say I'm writing a sonnet. It's like,
that's-
oh hey, my name's Jake. Nice to meet you. I'm
Why do
writing
you
a
say-
sonnet.
Why do you
So thanks
Why
for
do you
asking.
why do you give a fake name?
No, I'm not Jake. That's someone named Jake introducing themselves to me. I don't know how that wasn't clear.
What?
I'm at a shindig and I just met a Jake, and Jake says, "Hi, I'm Jake," but I don't know that yet until he says it, and then I say I'm writing a sonnet.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
Anyway,
Do you have any final thoughts about Shakespeare in Love?
no, it was good. This is a movie I think I would rewatch if it was on. You know, I thought it was fun. It was. Maybe it's the fact that I don't know why it was an Oscar movie. You know, it felt very rom-com-y, which is fine. I don't know if a rom-com is incapable of winning an Oscar, but it felt like something I've seen before, except for that last 30-minute sequence where they performed the play of Romeo and Juliet. That felt truly unique.
Gotcha. I Yeah, I would rewatch this movie. I think it's really good. I think it's really fun. I think it's sad where it needs to be sad. It's romantic where it needs to be romantic. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is really good in this movie.
Yeah.
And you do see her bubbies.
Yeah. This was the movie, by the way, I mistakenly said it was Romeo and Juliet that we had to watch in class. This was the one. We watched this in school.
Oh.
And we got to see the bubbies.
Gotcha. So kids keep
Stay in
studying
school.
if you want to see
stay.
bubbies.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to hear the other Best Picture nominees from 1999?
Yes, I do.
All right. This is kind of a stacked year.
Okay.
I have a clear winner who should have won, but we'll get
Okay.
into it. Next up, we
Yeah.
have Shakespeare in Love wins Best Picture. Next, another nominee. Kind of an adjacent movie. We have Elizabeth,
Oh, that was this year?
about Queen Elizabeth, I believe, right?
So she was portrayed twice in Oscar-nominated films this year.
You've seen Elizabeth. It's your favorite movie, right?
Of course, I love Elizabeth. Yeah, it was historically accurate, which I think was my favorite aspect of it. And that's pretty much it. That's really what I liked about it. Tom Hanks is in it.
Well, yeah.
Is he?
Huh?
Is he in it?
No, but it's funny
Okay.
that you say that. He's coming up in a second. Holy shit. Joseph Fiennes is also in Elizabeth.
What is he doing?
So is Jeffrey Rush.
That had
This
to have
movie
been
just like
so
fucking
confusing.
cannibalized the Shakespeare in Love cast, or vice versa. That's crazy.
Like, yeah, I wonder which came first. Like, do you think someone saw? You think John Madden, kicking back from watching the Raiders, was like, oh, you know what? This Elizabeth movie's pretty good. Let's borrow that cast and spin up something else.
I guess so. I mean, I guess they were just like the most famous, like some of the most famous British actors at the time.
The
Not- I don't know.
The
Is Kate
Fiennes are
Blanchett-
British.
yeah.
I don't think any of them are British.
Are they not? Where are they from? I know Jeffrey Rush is British, I think.
Oh, my bad.
Let's not talk about this. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's not guess at people's nationality.
Okay.
Next up is a movie. I feel like Life is Beautiful, directed by Roberto Benigni.
That's
know this movie.
That's different from. What is the Christmas movie?
This
It's a beautiful.
It's
What?
a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, that's not
Yeah.
that movie. What is Life is Beautiful?
Life is Beautiful is the movie where it takes place during like right before the Nazis occupy, I guess, Italy. And then but then the Nazis, the first half is like just kind of a low-key comedy, like kind of a romantic comedy.
Okay.
And then the second half, Roberto Benigni plays a father. the Nazis come and take his wife, and his son, his little baby son, and put them in a concentration camp.
How could they? How could they?
And it's a movie about like Roberto Benigni like being a little goofy guy in order to get his son through the horrors of a concentration camp.
Oh, again, it falls in the lineup of things that we've seen in high school, but yeah, I do remember that movie.
We had Italian teachers who fucking basically every Italian teacher I had in high school was like, this is the peak of Italian cinema, and I think it's actually garbage.
Whoa, I remember thinking it was pretty good. I mean, the peak of Italian cinema is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Dolce Vita. Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
That's spaghetti style for you.
Totally.
But all right, Life is Beautiful. I agree with the sentiment. I don't
like
really remember
life,
the movie.
More like Life is Batiful.
Jesus, man. Hey, man, you all right?
Huh?
Are you okay? You good?
I've been having a really hard time, man.
Yeah.
Just like Taxman's at my door.
Yeah.
The Axeman's on my floor.
That's heavy, man. I'm not equipped to deal with that.
Then why'd you ask?
I just thought maybe it'd be
I thought your problems would be normal and easy to deal with.
I thought you were a little bit more manageable. But I guess moving on.
Next up, you're gonna fucking blow your goddamn gourd.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg, Saving Private Ryan.
Oh,
Starring Tom Hanks.
All right. Oh, there he is, baby. There he is.
A movie that I think I like more than Shakespeare in Love. Yeah, I don't know what you want me to tell you. I love war. What do you want me to say?
I've never seen it. But
you've never seen Saving Private Ryan?
It's probably really bad.
Show me.
What? I told you out in the outset I've seen 7 movies. Now I've seen like 27 movies because we've seen these movies. Hello, this is Ander. Sorry to interrupt. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with the video recording for this portion. So just to kind of complete the circle of Best Picture nominees, there was The Thin Red Line, which is about exactly what you think it is. Just a tiny little, just a thin little red line. Actually, it was about war. It's pretty sad. I don't know, I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna speak on it to the best that I can. Adrian Brody's in it. He thought he was the main character. Turns out he went to the premiere and he was not. Sucks for him. Good for Jim Diesel, or Jim Caviezel, who ended up being the lead role, I guess. Terrence Malick directed it. Seems like he kind of has like a crazy style of filmmaking where he just takes a bunch of shit and edits it together, and whatever is the movie. Kind of cool. I respect it. Just wanted to add a little editor's note here. We didn't forget about it. We didn't forget about all you diehard thin red liners out there. Anyway, let's close this bad boy out.
Let's fucking steer this thing into the station.
Do it.
Terrence Malick should have won Best Director because I don't think he's honestly gonna have another chance. Also, it's his first movie in 20 years, so whatever. Thin Red Line rules. Go see it.
I don't think he's gonna live to see the day where he gets the Golden God, the Osc.
The Osc.
And that's unfortunate for Terry.
Terry. You have any reviews for us?
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, do you think Shakespeare in Love's Oscar worthy? Best Picture worthy?
Honestly, nah. Well, I can't really say for sure because it's literally the only one in this class that I've seen. But I don't know. It didn't. Maybe it just didn't feel Oscar-y. Maybe that's a pretty loose criticism. But I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And maybe the Oscar pantheon needs more movies that aren't Oscar-y. So you know what? Actually, yeah. I think it was Oscar-worthy. I think if you're upset about Saving Private Ryan, go cry to somebody else about it. I don't want to hear about it. That's your own business. I got nothing. I really don't have much against Shakespeare in Love, so
yeah,
why not? Give it that Oscar.
I basically feel the same way. I'm just like, I mean, I would have preferred different winners, but I'm like, Shakespeare in Love is like a really well-made, fun movie, and
Yeah.
it's almost surprising. It's like, it's not the kind of movie that would normally almost like win. It doesn't seem like it would win Best Picture because it's like, I don't know, it's like a romance, and people like if there isn't like guns and war and like some kind of like big spectacle or not even, I don't know. It just it sort of it doesn't feel like a normal Oscar winner, but
Right.
I
Listen,
think it's good.
by that sentiment, give me the name of somebody who rides a trike at 40 years old.
Um, Dylan Hammersmith.
Dylan Hammersmith says, 5 stars. Fuck everyone that says this is bad. I don't care if it won Best Picture. I don't care for the Oscars. If you don't like this, I'm convinced you just don't know how to have fun. Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan, for being the voice of reason in this whole affair. Give me the name of somebody who saw Harry Potter and had an emotional awakening.
Robert Gabraith. Gabraith?
Sure. Robert Gabraith
Fucking
says,
pen name.
this is not even, no stars, I guess, but the review says, holy fuck, dude, holy fuck, Voldemort's brother is ... smoking.
I mean, this is a movie full of cuties.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's a really stark contrast on the cutie to not cutie ratio.
Right.
Like, you got Gwyneth, you got Ben, you got Fiennes, and then there's kind of the rest, which is...
Right.
I mean, not trying to throw shade. Firth is kind of a cutie.
Yeah, what's interesting about Firth's role in this is I feel like in the 90s he was like sort of the heartthrob romantic lead, and in this one it's like, what if we made him a cuck ass?
Yeah, like they just gave him a dangly earring and said he's now a bad guy.
Yeah. Never trust a man with one earring.
Never trust a man with one ear. Van Gogh, you're on thin ice.
Next week we are talking
Ew,
Billy Wilder. Huh?
We're talking next week?
Yeah.
Sick of
Next week we are talking Billy Wilder's 1945 release, maybe 1946 winner. The Lost Weekend.
God, it sounds like I'm gonna lose that weekend, huh?
It's only an hour and 45 minutes. Don't actually 41, hour 41.
Okay.
It's about a guy, an alcoholic who goes on a bender, like a 4-day bender.
All right.
Billy Wilder, though. Billy Wilder is a great director. I haven't seen this movie, but he's a great director. I think we're in better hands than you might think.
All right, I'm in. I'm back in.
Catch us next week, Wieners. And maybe we'll be drunk that episode. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
Oh, that's a fun idea. That's fun.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners. These boys are the Oscar wieners. Oscar wieners.
Why must I be a Shakespeare in love?
Oh, that's
Why
good.
must I be a Shakespeare in love? Each time I write a sonnet, it always sounds so bad. And I just saw a woman, and she just makes me sad.